Hey there, Al Perhax. Welcome back to the 7-Day Inception. And today is day number 4. And day number 4, we're going to be going into perception and awareness. Now, what you're going to notice in today's program is that I'm going to go into the perception awareness, which is the psychic energy conduit. But what you're going to notice, there's going to be some crossover and overlap between what we've already covered: mindset domination, energy, meditation. They're all cohesive. And that's, of course, why I created the system, because they all work together so well. So let's just jump right into it and begin to understand how this plays out, right? So perception and awareness, we want to talk about it. Now, and again, you're going to get this slide deck. Everything in the system comes back to the 9-step process. So for example, in any of the pillars that we discuss, you go through the process, the 9-step process that's going to enable you to get the skill that's in that particular pillar, right? So, you're always going to assess your skills. How good am I at perception, right? Discovery, diagnosis, right? Okay, here's what I need to do in order to get better at that, right? Skill level, target, game plan. Well, here's what I want. And then core exercise. What exercise do I have to do in order to accentuate that? Ritual development. Okay, so now I know the exercises. Let's put together a routine or a ritual and do it on a daily basis. Pretty simple, okay? And then tactics for breakthrough. How am I going to break through? And then a feedback loop. If you have a mentor or a coach like myself, you can get feedback how good you're coming along, and then unblock and release, and then revitalize and transform. You're transforming yourself as you go through it, which is great. Okay, let's go to the next phase. I haven't showed this chart. I probably should have showed it on the first day, which is the Mind Force method, right? The pillars. Now, the pillars show Qigong, meditation, psychic, manifestation, healing, hypnotic. And you'll notice that in this particular 7-day inception, I've categorized them more of the output than the method. So, for instance, the Qigong is energy, right? Strong, powerful yin and yang energy. The meditation was focus and relaxation, which is what you're getting. And the psychic is the perception and the awareness. And then, anyway, that's how I set it up. Okay, but you're going to get this chart. You can take a look at it and say, okay, this is what I want to do. Now, the reason I have the 6 pillars or cylinders, you can call them whatever you want, is because they integrate beautifully. And if you ever wanted to go and train with somebody else, from my perspective at least, these are the pillars minimally that you would want to be able to get good at. A lot of people are good at energy, so they say, but they don't understand how all of this works together. You're going to find somebody that's good at hypnosis. They have no clue about the other stuff. Psychic, most don't. It's just one of those things. And as we go through the process, we're always utilizing these 3 minds: the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious, especially in the psychic area, right? We want to make sure that there's a connection. And a lot of this is letting go, relaxation. And you're going to notice there's a corresponding book that's one of the bonuses here that's going to allow you to give you some more information. Again, everything that I'm talking about here during the 7-day inception is really a tipping point, right? It's giving you the information that you need. It's giving you all of the parameters But in order to get the skill itself, number one, you need the proper exercises. And then number two, you need to put in flight time. Simple as that. I call it plan, do, review, right? You plan out what you're going to do, you execute, and then you review it. If you don't, a lot of courses out there, the problem with them is that, and problem with a lot of you, is that you love researching, reading, and all this kind of stuff, but you don't apply. And so in this 7-day inception, my goal was for you to have some application that you can get started. If you want to take it to the next level, you get the appropriate training. Whether it's from me or someone else, it doesn't matter, but you have to do that. You have to get the skill set in order to understand how you're going to be getting good at these types of skills. That's the bottom line. It's not me. It's totality. So the perception flows where the energy goes. You may, if you refer back to the energy pillar, I think I use a little bit of a different phraseology. I think the mind goes where the energy flows, right? And so in this case, the perception flows where the energy goes. So as you send that energy out, there's a perception, right? Awareness, relaxation, all these things come into play. But it's all about the energy. All energy can be transformed. And from the psychic standpoint, you really want to be opening up. You want to be becoming more sensitive, more receptive to all the energies that are around you, right? So you got your 5 senses, right? If you don't know what they are, right? Touch, smell, taste, right? What else? What else is hearing? Let's see. So that's 1, 2. What? Anyway, you get the point. If you don't know the 5 senses, look it up. But this is the 6th sense. People talk about the 6th sense, that ability to perceive that which is not within the 5 senses. Coincidence, intuition, all these types of things. And instant perception and physical awareness. We all have it. You already have instant perception. You have awareness, clairvoyance, telepathy, precognition, psychometry, clairaudience, empathy, empath, and remote viewing, which is just it's kind of a short list. I'm going to go into a much deeper list as we go through this. But these are all skills you already have. Now, over time, you may have muted them depending upon how old you are. But when you were born, you had all these skills. As you get older, your parents, teachers, religious people tell you that you don't have those skills. You see things in the dark, you see things at night, and your parents tell you there's nothing there. When in reality, there is. Now, as we go into this whole thing, from my perspective, it comes down to, do you believe in that spiritual realm? Because if you don't believe in the spiritual realm, how are you going to make the transition to this perception, right? Like I said, there's the chi triad. There's this mental, physical, and now this is the spiritual. The spiritual crosses over between all the other two. That's why it's a triad. They intersect. And so you're building up your physical chi in order to open up your sensory and perception areas in your mind, in your brain, in your body, which allows you to tap into that spiritual sense, right? So they all work together. Very specific techniques for every aspect in order to get them to work. That's the uniqueness of this system. Very unique, right? A lot of people talk about mind, body, spirit, but they have no idea what they're talking about, or they don't even believe it. But here's a concept. If you don't believe in the spirit, if you don't believe you are a spirit, I don't even know why you're even here. Because we are spirits inside of a body. The body is a shell. And one day the shell will be gone. My shell will be gone. Your shell will be gone. And your spirit is going to go. Your soul is going to go somewhere else. That's the way it is. And you either believe it or if you don't believe that, you really have no business being here. Or you don't believe it, but you want to believe it, that's fine. Because some people come in here and say, I wasn't really a believer in this kind of stuff, but I wanted to investigate and understand to see if I could believe. If that makes sense. And it should. Right? So mind, force, and quantum qigong psychic skills, telepathy, intuition, perceptions, mental ESP, precognition, retrocognition, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, psychometry and auric viewing, remote viewing, astral projection, lucid dreaming, pendulums and dowsing, mind, body, spirit connection, love, emotional power, shielding, and warding. And I'm going to go through some of these things. And again, in the context of the 7-day, this is really designed to allow you to see the potential that's inside of you, give you some techniques, give you some exercises that you can immediately use and start your training. And if you want to get more and you want to understand more, then you join the inner circle or you get the master system or you get the internal power centers in this case, whatever you want to do. I'm just giving you the resources. I'm taking you to the path, but you have to walk the path and you have to do the training. It's not something for nothing, right? Again, the 3 cornerstones of the triad. Mental chi, using your mind to create things to happen. We're going to get more into that in the next day in manifestation. Physical chi, being good at externalization of chi energy. This is a key delineation between what is in this system and what is in almost every other system. They teach energy, but they don't teach it from the externalization that you can actually really feel it and you can really externalize it. It's more of a, oh yeah, I can feel something there, but it's not a reality of how powerful that can get. From this system, we're telling you it can get powerful. Powerful to the point where you'll have side effects because it's so strong. And then tapping into the spiritual essence and spirit eyes, right? Third eye, spirit eyes, which is where a lot of these things are going to happen. And I can show you once you get involved in the system is how you can do that. And so spiritual chi training is perception skills, awareness, and intuition. Nighttime dream training. That's something that's very unique. Very few know about it. You won't learn it probably almost anywhere else but here. If you're interested in that type of thing, let me know. I can lead you on the right path. And then psychic sensitivity, which is kind of a catch-all for that, right? Physical, mental, spiritual sensitivity. Physical, mental, spiritual. Now, I've brought this up on every session we've had. I've brought it up like 3 times in this session already. Mentioned the triad, just showed you the triad. Now we're showing it again. I showed you in the beginning that you're dealing with your conscious, subconscious, and your superconscious, which relate to the physical, mental, and the spiritual, right? So the energy is physical, the mind force is mental, and then this psychic conduit is the spiritual. There's a lot of elements that cause this to be a spiritual type of training. Now, I can be, really frank with you and tell you that I've spoken to people over the years that had these psychic abilities, and they would call me. In fact, I just spoke to somebody the other day, and they said, "This stuff freaks me out. How can I get rid of it? Right? How can I stop being psychic? I don't want to know all this information." And you can certainly do it, but why would you? Right? I think you want to embrace it so that you can become more. But it's a personal decision. It's not something I can make a decision on. You got to make a decision on yourself. I had to make that decision and say, okay, I want that. And I'm going to see where it goes. So spiritual chi manipulation. We talk about the spiritual side because a lot of the psychic side is crossing over and kind of straddling the fence between here and another realm, the spirit realm, right? And we can get into great detail on that and what that means, right? And a lot of these things in the spiritual realm, quite frankly, are probably subject to opinion, subject to interpretation. And do we really know what happens when we die? Do we really know? We don't. And there's a reason why. I mean, obviously, based on my research, you go somewhere else. I don't necessarily believe in a heaven per se, but I do believe that you're going to another place. I don't know if I necessarily believe in hell per se, but if you do things in this life that are not helpful to other people, you'll probably be put in a situation that's not as wonderful. And we'll leave it at that. So, that's the thing, right? So I'm not going to hear and say, with any kind of confidence that I know everything that goes on, because for me to say that would be lying to you. In fact, anyone else that would tell you that would be lying as well. There's a lot of speculation about certain things. But one thing we do know is that we can affect that spiritual realm. We can see into that spiritual realm. We can get information about that. There's all different types of sides to the spiritual realm, from entities, demons, angels, and anything else that you might think of, right? Past relatives that are now on the other side, that are guides. You've heard the word guides before. Angelic guides, spirit guides. Some guides are good, some guides are not. What's the difference between, and how do you interpret it? How do you feel it? How do you know what is right and what is wrong, right? That's like the big thing. People say to me, hey, how do I know what, if I have a guide or a spirit, how do I know it's the right kind? It's not demonic or whatever. And I'll get to that. So the first thing we're going to talk about, telepathy, okay? An ability to communicate with both humans and animals using psychic skills. It's about sending and receiving information. If you have my manipulation course, which is primarily hypnotic influence, I do go into mind-to-mind communication, and I show you exactly how you do it. But you can practice this right now. It's all about being relaxed. It's all about sending the message and having confidence that the message is going there. Now, you'll notice I said both humans and animals. A great way to practice is with animals, is to send the message to the animal, come here, go to your food bowl, go to your water bowl. Where if you're in one side of the house and they're on the other side, call them inside your mind and send the impression to them. It works, and you'll get impressions from the pets as well. You'll notice some people are psychic with pets, right? Dog whisperers, cat whisperers. They can communicate with pets. Again, all these skills that I'm going to talk about take training and flight time, which means you have to hone the skill down. Now, there may be some of you that are natural. And even if you're natural, you still have to hone it down. Just like in any skill. I mean, if you're natural at painting, you're going to be even better if you take painting classes. Even better than that, if you paint a lot, you're going to get better. If you're just a natural painter and you never paint, your skill's not going to, it's not going to increase at all. And that's the way you look at it. Empathy. This is known as a cursed gift because it's a skill that allows people to sense emotional and physical states of others through psychic means. And the challenge with this one is you feel somebody's pain. You feel their happiness. Unfortunately, a lot of people are in pain. A lot of people are not happy. We're going to talk a little bit about that. When we get into the next couple phases, the healing and the manifestation, we're going to talk about that because it's a big factor. But empaths is somebody that can feel. You can do the same thing. I can feel people to a certain extent. I haven't honed this down, but if I wanted to, I could really get into it. This is one of those ones that I don't want to feel everybody's pain. I really don't. And you shouldn't either. But if you have it naturally, it is what it is, right? Precognition, knowing the future, knowing things or having visions or precognition dreams. Sometimes it's about seeing the future with your eyes. Sometimes it's just about knowing that something will happen, a premonition, right? Don't get in the car. You feel like I shouldn't go shopping today. I shouldn't go to the store. And you find out there was an accident on the road that you usually go on. That's a premonition, precognition, knowing the future. Now, here's the thing with a lot of this is, as I explain this to a lot of people, they invariably will say to me, Al, I went to a psychic or I spoke to somebody and they weren't really accurate. There's going to be varying levels of accuracy based on stress levels, based on your relaxation, based on how focused you are, based on the situation. Everything has a tendency to have a possibility to change due to other circumstances. So even though you might see something extremely clear, it could change. Like, for example, I always use this example that years ago, probably 20 years ago, I was in the market for a job. And I remember going to this position and I knew I was going to get this position. And I felt so good. I could feel it that they were going to give me the offer. But then 9/11 happened and all the companies started pulling back. So if 9/11 hadn't happened, I would have gotten that position, right? But 9/11 happened and, that caused a chaos, right? And so even though I could predict I've got that. And even people I knew that, were, had these skills that would say, oh yeah, you definitely got that, Al, because I would always check with people. But again, something happened and it changed, right? So you always got to realize that. Retrognition, which is a form of psychometry, perhaps, but still something like precognition, but this time we're perceiving the past, not the future. And so it's kind of going back to the future, back to the past, right? And it's not as helpful, but it is helpful from the standpoint if you need to get information about a past situation and you want to relive it, to bring that information back and say, okay, I remember when I was a kid, boom, this is what happened. This is why, the significance, yada, yada. And again, all of these skills take time and effort to get good at. Very rarely do I find somebody that can do all of these things magnificently. Very, very rarely. And if they tell you they can, they're probably not telling you the truth. Most people are really good in one form or fashion. Clairvoyance is being able to see things without eyes. Sometimes very real and sometimes just with your inner eyes. Again, third eye. Perception, right? Being able to see things. And that is a whole range of perception. Again, perception, I'm putting labels on them, but there really can't be any labels on the perception because you're going to get all these things that happen. You're going to have the clairvoyance, clairaudience, and precognition, and everything is going to happen. Deja vu, right? You ever heard the word deja vu, right? Is where you experience something, and the minute that you experience it, you recognize it as something that you already knew about, like that. Okay. Again, that's a real thing that almost everybody has gone through. And they'll say, oh yeah, it was a deja vu moment. But if you really think about it, it was your psychic perception kicking in at that moment It's like the planets are aligning. Your mind, body, and spirit are aligning during that moment to get you a result. Clairaudience. It's similar to clairvoyance, but this time it's the ability to hear things. Yet not like you normally hear, but like thoughts inside of your mind. You hear certain songs, melodies, things that are designed to propel you into a specific type of psychic situation. I personally haven't experienced this that much at all that I can really recall. But I have some people that are really good at this. And again, it all comes down to honing down the skill. So as you look at each one of these, I want you to ask yourself the question, which is part of the assignment. Have I experienced clairaudience? Now, in order to do a lot of these things, you want to go into a meditative state and you want to relax down. We're going to go into an exercise in a little bit about that, but you want to relax down and just think about clairaudience. Was there a time, and you can even talk to your superconscious or subconscious, was ever there a time where I experienced clairaudience that I can remember? All right? Clairsentience. This is a famous psychic sensitivity, an ability to sense psychic energies and entities that are around. Probably the most popular skill among energy workers, probably even more so psychics, because they're communicating with somebody from the other side, right? And if you, again, it comes back to the spiritual conundrum, right? If you believe in souls and spirits, then it only makes sense that they're around all the time. Some of them, not all of them, obviously. But if you really believe in spirits and souls, right? Then, and if some of them are disembodied, which means they don't realize they're really dead. If you remember the movie The Sixth Sense, I see dead people. That's it, right? Where do you think they come up with these concepts? Because people experience it. I've experienced that a lot. Many other people have. We used to live in a house, and let's see, myself, my oldest son, and my youngest daughter could see. There was an older man, probably the guy that used to live in the house, and a dog that was in the house. Spirits. And we each saw it. Right? Hey, I saw the old man today, my son would say, or my daughter would say. Now, if we were a family that didn't talk about things like that, they would have never brought it up. They might have said, oh, I saw something. But when we all come together and say, oh, yeah, I saw that same thing, makes sense, right? But that's what psychics do. Some psychics are real, some psychics are not. Some psychics, when I say are not, they may not be as highly evolved as others. I mean, there's different levels of perceptions that people have. Some is really highly tuned. And again, it's based on how much are you working it. The other thing is, it's not always 100% accurate. There's no way it can be. The way you interpret energy from a spirit, or across that parallel, right? That different, dimension. There could be a lot that misses the interpretation. So just keep that in mind, that this is like anything. You could be the best athlete in the world, best basketball player, but you don't make every shot. Same with hockey. You don't hit every ball in baseball. You hit 33%, you're a champion. Same thing's true with this. You're going to get information. You're going to be 100% accurate ever. I don't think there's anyone that ever is. Psychometry, this is like a mixed set of skills. Clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience that allows one to pick up information via psychic means from physical objects, tables, pencils, whole buildings. Now, this is like, these psychics that will try to find a lost child or somebody that's missing. They're going to take something from the person, an article of clothing, a favorite teddy bear, a watch, something that holds that person's energy. And they're going to use that as a conduit to connect to that person, to that situation. And that is what's entailed with that kind of thing. Now, whole buildings, this is another thing you can do. We call scanning. And again, this is a practice exercise. You could walk by a building and you can scan it. I use my hand as I'm going by, but you don't really need to use your hand. You can feel your entire body as a scanner. And as you walk by a building, what are you sensing? What is going on in that building? What does it feel like? Now, how would you get good at that? How would you get good at scanning? You would get good at scanning. And actually, while we're doing that, let's just go to the room here, the meditation room, and talk about this scanning process, right? So if you wanted to scan a building or a room, you would want to get the feeling for what that is. Now, how can you start? I always say, in order to get good at these types of things, you start at extremes. So if I were going to try to sense a building, I'm going to sense a building that has high emotions. So I'm going to sense maybe a hospital.
Rain from the top.
Oh, that's my Alexa. So I'm going to gravitate to things that are highly emotional. Church, hospital, funeral home, a concert, something that is extremely, where you can feel it. And then I'm going to go into other things. You could also do it at your house. You could also do it, if you're in school or if you're in an office and you've got closed office doors, you walk by the office and you get a sense what's going on in there. You can feel it. It's not always going to be 100% accurate, like I said, but you're going to start honing your skills. The more you use it, the more you get sensitive. Okay, it's creating, the reason I call this perception and awareness is because you're creating a perception and awareness. It's not always something you just have, but you start working on it. When you're lying down, you start feeling the room. I talked about this the other day, is feeling the room. You want to be able to feel different kind of energies. Funeral. Reason I say funeral is because the emotions are very thick. Hospital emotions are very thick. There's probably more spirits in hospitals than anywhere because people are dying all the time in hospitals. I don't like hospitals personally, but if I'm testing, I'm going to test in all these areas, right? Even if you look at a funeral home might have a lot of spirits there because it's where people are laid out for their final, when they're getting ready to go to their final place. However, think about a hospital. It's huge facility where people dying all the time. Very weird energy. But when you measure these different energy pieces, you start to understand and perceive, right? It's really like the understanding the difference between colors, right? What is the difference between a white, a black, and a red and a green, right? What is the difference? Well, the same thing's true with these different energies. You want to be able to understand what these energies are. That's just the way it is, right? The next one's remote viewing, right? Another mixed set of skills that allow to perceive the physical objects without the use of normal senses. Just like psychometry utilized clairvoyance skills with physical contact or close proximity with the object, remote viewing does not require any proximity or physical contact. This is where, and you can look on I think it's Netflix or maybe Amazon, Psychic Spies. There's several good shows on remote viewing, Psychic Spies, and the government has had these programs for years. Not only psychic going out to retrieve information, but also programs like MK Ultra, which were brainwashing. These are all tightly closed type of situations, but the fact of the matter is they were all real, and they're probably all still active today. They're not going to give up psychic spying, especially when Russians are doing it. The Chinese are certainly doing it. Any of the other governments are doing these types of things, you're going to do it. So remote viewing is where normally what happens is you've got two people or more. One person is the viewer, and they're in a chair and they're relaxing down, they're meditating and they're getting into the zone. Then you have another person that has the coordinates of where these people need to go in their mind, right? In their spirit, however they go. And so the person has the coordinates and says, I want you to view these coordinates, or they'll give a specific location. See, your mind and your subconscious mind knows everything. Your subconscious mind knows everything. That's the key, is your subconscious mind knows everything. And so when I talk to you and my subconscious mind's talking to you, it's like and I mentioned this in the mindset domination, is you've got multiple conversations going on. You got an energy conversation, a mental conversation, and then you've got your physical conversation. Well, in remote viewing, it's pretty much the same thing. You're sending your mind out to get information based on a location. And I've had people that have called me, have emailed me, and I remember one guy said to me, it's freaking my girlfriend out because I'm in this location, she's in this location, and I'm basically telling her what she's doing. And it's freaking her out. I think they broke up as a result of that. But that's, it's kind of freaky. Think about it. But again, it's an acquired skill. Most remote viewers are good, and then they test them, and then they teach them how to get better. It's the same thing I do. I'll teach you how to get better. Arc viewing, right? A form of clairvoyance that allows people to literally see the aura around the person. This is a pretty simplistic skill. You put somebody against a white background, dim the lights, and then you kind of go with the sleepy eye peripheral vision and you try to see the outline of their aura. And as you get better and better, you start to see not only the aura, but the colors and the shapes. And based on the color and the shapes, you can determine if somebody's aura is strong or it's weak, or, if they're sick or healthy, vibrant, happy, depressed. This is another skill. But this is something that can be taught and something that can be honed into. You see, that's really the importance of this entire discussion, is that all these skills, although they're unique, they're esoteric. And as I mentioned before, esoteric means hidden. They're not normally taught. You're not going to learn this in school. And if you said to somebody, I can see your aura is looking really good, most of the time they'd be like, what are you talking about? Right? But if you understand how it works, and you saw 10 people walk by and you saw 10 different auras, you can make a clarification on that, right? Astral projection. Now, this is an ability to leave your physical body and explore the astral planes, right? A lot of people that I talk to want to do this, or they're already doing it and they don't want to do it. I've done it for years. It took me a while to get used to it. And again, this is another skill that is doable, but it takes effort. It takes getting your body to a total relaxed state. You want to get your body to a total relaxed state where the body's relaxed, but the mind's still lucid. Your body does not want to release your spirit. Does not. And so when you try to do it deliberately, the body is going to hold on to the spirit. It's a self-defense mechanism for the body. And in a certain sense, in your mind and even your spirit can go out any time, but it's like your conscious mind, it wants to hold on to the spirit. Now, I believe that we travel out of our bodies every night, but we don't remember a lot of it. Because the spirit, when the body, and this is the same thing, when you get good at astral projection, you realize you get your body into a dead state, and then your spirit can flow out. You got to get super relaxed. And so when you go into a sleep state, usually that's what happens. Your body gets totally relaxed, goes into that dead body state, right? And then your spirit can go out. But oftentimes you're not lucid. You don't remember any of that. But you can learn varying degrees of that where you get really good at it. And for some people, that's their go-to, right? Pendulums and dowsing. Being able to sense psychic energies using devices like rods or pendulum. Like I have a pendulum right here that I use. And what this does is this connects with the subconscious mind and the superconscious mind. And again, it takes practice in order to get it to go one way or the other. And then you can ask questions, and your subconscious will answer through the conduit, which is the pendulum. And you'll notice that some will have, you can do it in rotations, one way or the other for certain effects. And it's really a unique process. And if you look it up, there's some really good references out there. But again, what I'm teaching people are processes. I'm teaching you a lot of different processes. And some of you are going to say, oh my God, I love that idea of a pendulum and dowsing. I love that idea. Some of you are like, that sounds super hokey. I don't want to deal with that at all. Some of you are going to be like, I love astral projection, the idea of it. Others are going to be like, that's too weird for me. I don't want to know anything about that. But again, if you understand the concept of spirit, then it makes sense that your spirit would be leaving every night, or maybe every other night, once a week, whatever you can believe. But think about it. If you really are a spirit, you should be able to leave. And if you have a subconscious mind, your subconscious mind knows, so does your superconscious, then you're using this as an interpreter for that subconscious mind. Very, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Shielding and warding is a set of typical psychic defense abilities. First is about setting psychic armor up so you're not being attacked by entities, demons, and people that want to cause you harm. The other is about creating wards that scare things away. So if you've taken a look at my dark side of chi and mind force, you'll realize that people using their energy, their mind, and their spirit can place curses on you, hexes, different types of things that can bother you. They can try to manipulate you with their energy and mentally, psychic, right? I mentioned MK Ultra, which is a mind control program. And there are certain ways that you can ward off these things, or you can shield yourself from these things. And it's very important. I mean, I talk to people all the time that, feel like they are possessed. They might have witchcraft on them. They might have curses and hexes. And, showing somebody a way to get rid of them so that they can be free is a big thing. Also, when you mess in these spiritual realms, depending upon how you do it, you could flare up things to be attracted to you. And when I say things, entities, demons, angels, spirit guides that can be attracted to you based on the fact that you are essentially attracting them. It's like you're putting up a beacon, like one of these big lights that go up. You ever see a car dealership that has these big lights that spin around, right? And you go, oh yeah, okay, there it is. That's what you're doing as you build up your energy, your mind force, your spirit. If you're afraid of stuff like that, then this might not be a good thing for you. But if you're up for the challenge, then you make it happen. And that's the way I was. I was like, I don't know if I believe all this stuff, but I will do it because I want to experience it. And I can honestly tell you, I've fought demons, entities, all kind of crazy stuff. I almost don't like to mention it because most people say, you're a weird dude. And the thing is I can't really say this in front of a lot of people. Like if I was in a mixed company at a corporate function, and I do a lot of corporate training and executive coaching, I'm not going to bring stuff like this up to people because it's going to freak them out. I'm going to be like, this guy's totally a weirdo. But for those of you that experience these kind of things, you're like, yeah, I get it, right? So, I mean, you have to know, where your focus is with people so that it's something that makes sense, right? So we're going to do something right now. We're going to do an exercise developing perception and awareness real quickly. right? We're going to go back into the meditation room. Now, I want you to relax your body, your mind, and your spirit. Take a deep breath. When you breathe out, I want you to just let your body flow and relax. If you're lying down, that's fine. Most of you are probably sitting in a chair like I am. And you just close your eyes and you relax. And perception and awareness comes best when you still the mind. The best way to still the mind is to focus on the breath and also on the heartbeats. So as you take in a deep breath, hold it, let it out. What you're going to notice is that when you take in a deep breath, you can't think. You really can't, right? When you take a deep breath, it's very hard to think, which is good because that's how we're going to get into the perception. And when you count your heartbeats, when you breathe in deep, the heartbeats bring a focus into your mind where you're basically separating that conscious thinking portion of your mind and you're allowing perception and awareness to take place. It's called stilling the mind. Deep breath. Release. Count the heartbeats. Do you guys feel that stilling? The mind stilling mechanism. I want you to practice that. And you can do it for as long as you want. Once you can get your body, and this goes back to the same thing I mentioned in the meditation, to relax. And what was it? So we taught in the meditation portion, the focus and relaxation. When you think about it, you're focusing on the breath, you're focusing on the heartbeat. It allows you to relax. It opens up the awareness and perception of your body because now your conscious mind is being kind of put into a relaxed state where it's not thinking. The most issues that most people have with any of these types of training is inability to focus based on the fact that their mind is running too fast with all the garbage that's going on in the world. Most of it is coming down to, as I mentioned the other day, this little thing: phone, computer, internet. We have so much information at us. We can look at news. We can be hyperactive on all the bad things that are going on. And of course, it causes our mind to race. You got to learn to bring that mind down. And there's no more important time to do that than when you're trying to gain psychic skills. So let's go to the next exercise. This is called spiritual recognition. I call it spiritual dimension jumping. I want you to think of a time in your life when you had a feeling of falling while you were sleeping. I want you to think of that. I also want you to think about maybe a time when you were sleeping or even awake or daydreaming when you saw someone who has passed. Oftentimes when you see somebody who's passed in your dream, it's a spiritual recognition. Or maybe a time when you felt like you were in a place that was real, but you were in a dream, or vice versa. Was it real? Or was it a dream? Question mark, right? I want you to close your eyes and remember that time. Remember that feeling. What did that feel like? Who did you see? Relative? Friend? You're opening up your spiritual senses. You're opening up your spiritual senses, your perceptions, your awareness. And as you open them, you begin to perceive what's going on around you more vividly than ever before. You recognize it. You're aware of it. You have an integration of your conscious, subconscious, and superconscious minds. And they transfer information, feelings, emotions back and forth all the time. And with practice, you will control the process. And day by day, your perception and awareness skills will become greater and greater. And you will feel it. You will understand it. And it will be as natural as anything you've ever done in your life. Now open up your eyes. We're back. And you can go through that exercise, short exercise. I'm going to include other exercises as we go. Obviously, you can use that in conjunction with the meditation that we did in the last section on meditation. You want to be able to, recognize that. It really comes down to being like almost everything that we're talking about when it comes to hypnotic influence, mindset domination. We come back to the energy. We go to the meditation, psychic awareness, perception. It all comes down to relaxation. The next phase, or the next piece we're going to go into is manifestation and abundance creation, prosperity consciousness. That's going to be relaxation. Healing is going to be relaxation. Everything comes down to relaxation and awareness and focus. There's a focus and a defocus. Sometimes you can be too focused because your mind's thinking too much. But when you get a good, clean focus where you're focused on the specific thing that you need to focus on, that's where you want to be. It's a fine line. But I've enjoyed sharing this information with you. Hopefully you've gotten something out of it and you've learned some things and you understand some things now, but that maybe you didn't understand before. And of course, if you want to take it to that next level, the best place to start is the Internal Power Centers course. That goes all into the psychic aspects of everything I talked about, except at a much deeper level, several hours of training. And then the Inner Circle, we go into it and we hone it down more and more and more and more. So that's really, the aspects of where you want to be in terms of that, because this is going to assist you in every area of your life. This can help you do business better. It's going to help you have a better relationship. It's going to help you with your kids better. I mean, it really has no, in my opinion, no negatives unless you take it that way. Like I said, your energy is comprised of how you set it. You set your own energy body up. You set your own energy system up. So if you want it to be positive, it will be. And if for some reason it's negative, it's because you've aligned it that way. And the next session, we're really going to go into that positive mental alignment in the manifestation and abundance category, because this is where people really get it wrong. You're going to love this next session. I've enjoyed sharing with you these esoteric hidden information. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day. So long.